I was 30,000 feet above ground, somewhere over the Atlantic, sipping overpriced whiskey in a business class seat, when my phone buzzed with a message that made my chest collapse inward. Hey, babe. I just wanted to let you know I sold the farmhouse. Got $2 million for it. Spent it all on Jordan's new startup. He needed it more than you. Don't freak out. We'll talk later. I read it 3 times, and it still didn't make sense. My farmhouse? The one I inherited from my grandfather? The one valued at over $20 million? My wife, Haley, just gave it away for pocket change and funneled the money into her boyfriend's business? Boyfriend? I blinked. My heart didn't know whether to rage, panic, or collapse from shock. I reached for my bag, already waving over the flight attendant before the realization even settled in. Turn this plane around, I muttered. They didn't, of course. But we landed 4 hours later. And the moment I touched down in New York, I didn't go home, didn't call friends, didn't even change my shirt. I took the first car I could find and sped straight to the farmhouse. I needed to see it. Needed to confirm whether the insanity was real. But here's the thing. When I got there, I couldn't stop laughing. The gates were open. The lawn overgrown. The house? Still standing. Still mine. Still untouched. Because Haley had forgotten one crucial detail. She sold the wrong farmhouse. Let me rewind for a second. We owned multiple properties, but the farmhouse, the real one, was in my name only. My grandfather's will was airtight. But years ago, I'd purchased a similar plot down the road as a decoy for tax purposes. It looked identical, minus the antique furniture, land rights, and heritage value. That was the one titled under both our names. And that was the one Haley had sold. To Jordan, her boyfriend. A 29-year-old entrepreneur with bleached teeth and a fake Rolex. They thought they got away with it. She probably imagined me crying somewhere on a yacht, too busy being rich to care. But no, now I was standing in the real house, looking around, realizing she had no clue. I should have been furious. But in that moment, all I could do was grin like a lunatic. Because now, it was my move. I walked through the old hallways, each creaky floorboard whispering memories of my grandfather. That's when the weight hit me, not of what she tried to steal, but who she had become, who I had been blind to. And suddenly, all the late-night calls she'd take outside, all the girls' trips that ended with smeared lipstick and silence, all the cold stares during dinner, they made sense. I'd ignored the signs, convinced myself we were just going through a phase. But no, she was a monster in designer heels. I sat down on the vintage leather couch in the study, the same spot I used to read letters from my grandfather. I opened my phone and pulled up our shared bank statements. Empty. Savings? Gone. Investment accounts? Liquidated. Even the safe in my downtown office? Wiped. She'd been planning this, slowly draining everything, while I smiled through dinner, while I kissed her goodnight, while I made her coffee in the mornings. I called my lawyer, Dean, told him to put everything we had on lockdown. Then I called Blake, my oldest friend, and told him the real farmhouse was intact, but the war had begun. As I drove toward our Manhattan penthouse, I ran every memory through my head like crime scene footage. Her moans in the shower when she thought I wasn't home. The cologne that wasn't mine on her scarf. Her sudden love for morning runs. All of it, her lies. And Jordan? The idiot boy toy she emptied our fortune for? He was about to learn a lesson they don't teach in business school. Don't steal from a man who builds empires. When I arrived, the doorman gave me a nervous nod. I didn't speak. Just rode the elevator in silence. The second the doors opened on our floor, I heard them. Laughing. Haley's voice, sharp, fake, shrill, and Jordan's stoner giggle. I walked in. She was sitting on the couch in my hoodie, sipping champagne with her bare legs draped over Jordan like a trophy. She turned her head lazily when she saw me. Oh, you're back early. Like I was a stray dog that wandered in. Like I didn't just find out she sold my legacy for $2 million of betrayal. Where's the money? I asked. She smirked. Gone. Jordan needed it. He's building an app. Jordan threw me a peace sign. It's gonna change the world, bro. I looked at him like he was a stain. Then I looked at her. The woman I once married. The woman who once cried in my arms and told me I was her safe place. You gave him $20 million. She shrugged. What? You wanted me to ask your permission. You were never around. You were too busy playing rich. I blinked. Once. Then said, that wasn't the farmhouse. She frowned. What? You sold the wrong house, Haley? Her face twisted in confusion. Then panic. Then rage. Jordan leaned forward. Wait. What does that mean? I smiled. It means, I said, stepping inside and shutting the door behind me, you both just committed fraud. And now, I get to decide what happens next. She stood up fast, knocking over the champagne flute. It shattered on the marble floor, but no one flinched. Her mouth opened, then closed, like she was trying to form a sentence but couldn't pick which lie to go with first. You're lying, she said finally. You're just trying to scare us. I took out my phone, opened the property documents, and tossed it on the couch. Read it. Jordan picked it up before she could. His face turned pale. It's not under your name, he stuttered. Wait, but Haley, you said. Shut up, Jordan, she barked, snatching the phone from him. Her eyes scanned the screen, darting back and forth, and I saw the exact second it clicked. She get up. The silence in the room was heavy, like wet concrete. Haley's breathing got shallow, and her shoulders began to shake, not from crying. From rage. You manipulated me, she snapped, stepping toward me. You planted that house on purpose. Planted it? You mean bought it and titled it properly? You stole, Haley. You emptied our accounts. You sold property you didn't understand. You handed millions to a boy who can't code his way out of a Google document. Jordan looked like he wanted to disappear. Good. She paced back and forth, grabbing at her hair. I did it for us. You don't get it. You've never supported my dreams. You mean his dreams? She spun around, eyes wild. He believes in me. No. He believes in my bank account. And now it's gone. She lunged at me, finger pointed in my face. You think you're so smart, always so calm, always handling things. You just sit there with your smug little empire while I rot in that big house alone. You act like I was supposed to be grateful for being a rich man's trophy. You didn't rot, I said coldly. You were busy moaning into your phone when I wasn't home. The words landed like a slap. For a second, she didn't say anything. Then she did something insane. She laughed. That cold, hollow, psychotic laugh that didn't belong to the woman I married. You think this is the worst I've done, she said, eyes locked on mine. Oh, honey, you have no idea. She pulled out her phone, opened a folder, and tilted it toward me. Videos. Dozens. Labeled. Dated. Bedroom angles I didn't recognize. Her. Him. Them. Different rooms. Different men. My stomach dropped. You were a ghost, Nick, she whispered. Always working. Always gone. I stopped loving you years ago. I just didn't tell you because I still needed your money. Jordan stood there, stunned. Wait, different guys? She turned to him with that same dead-eyed stare. Oh, please. You really thought you were the only one. He looked like he'd been stabbed. I gave up my crypto gig for you. I almost laughed again. If this weren't the funeral of my marriage, it might have been a comedy show. You two deserve each other, I said, grabbing my phone off the couch. But you won't have each other for long. Haley stepped in my way. You're not going anywhere. I met her gaze without flinching. Actually, I am. But not before I make one phone call. She backed up slightly. Nick, let's be adults about this. No need to involve anyone else. We can work this out. You want money? I'll find more. I dialed. Dean. Yeah, it's worse than we thought. Push the fraud report. Now. I want both of them investigated. Wire transfers, property theft, all of it. Oh, and freeze her cards. Immediately. Haley lunged for the phone, but I stepped aside. You bastard, she shouted. You think you're some victim? You're not. You're just a loser in a suit who got played. I looked her dead in the eyes. No. I'm a man who gave you everything. And you traded it for some guy with a fake Rolex and a pitch deck. She screamed and threw the wine bottle across the room. It shattered against the wall. Jordan finally spoke again. So, what happens to me? I stared at him for a long second. I suggest you get out of the country. Now. Before the lawsuits hit. He didn't argue. Just grabbed his coat and bolted for the door. I turned to Haley. I'll let the lawyers deal with you. You don't scare me, she hissed. No, I said. But the IRS might. And with that, I walked out. The door slammed behind me. My hands were shaking. My chest tight. My heart still in pieces. But one thing was clear. This wasn't over. This was just the beginning. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my office downtown, surrounded by the last pieces of my life that Haley hadn't torched. The old photo of us on the Amalfi Coast stared back at me from the shelf, her wide smile, my arm around her waist. I picked it up and hurled it into the wall. Glass shattered. My heart didn't flinch. By morning, Dean had already frozen the accounts Haley hadn't drained. I sent him every bit of evidence I had, screenshots of her texts, records of the transfers, even the audio from our confrontation. Jordan's dumb voice saying, "I gave up my crypto gig for you," would now be the soundtrack to a fraud case. But even with the legal machine in motion, I wasn't done. I needed answers. I drove to the property office where the sale had gone through. The receptionist looked confused when I asked about the transaction. Then she recognized my name. "Oh, you're the original owner," she said. I nodded. She handed me a folder. "Your wife handled the entire process. Quick sale, off market. No inspections." She said it was urgent. Very charming woman. Charming, I repeated. Yeah, that's one word. Inside the file was the buyer's name, Jordan, of course, and his listed business address, a WeWork suite in Brooklyn. I got back in the car. By the time I reached the co-working space, I already knew what I was going to do. Jordan wasn't there. His office was empty, rented furniture, whiteboard full of buzzwords, a sad little espresso machine in the corner. A woman at the front desk confirmed my suspicion. "He hasn't shown up in over a week," she said. "Told us he was about to get a major investment and then ghosted." Of course he did. He took the money and ran. What neither of them realized was that I had resources. Real ones. I had hired private investigators to track corporate fraud before. This time, it was personal. By noon, I had Jordan's full profile. His real name wasn't even Jordan. It was Kyle, and he had 3 failed businesses, a suspended driver's license, and a sealed arrest record for assault in Miami. I sent the whole dossier to Dean. Then, just as I was about to leave, my phone buzzed again. Blocked number. I answered. "Nick?" It was Haley. Her voice was low, no longer arrogant. She sounded scared. I didn't know, okay? I didn't know he wasn't who he said he was. I made a mistake. I didn't answer. "Please. We need to talk." I kept driving. She sent a dozen messages over the next hour. The last one was a video. I hesitated before playing it. It was her, crying, standing in front of the fake farmhouse. "My life is falling apart. Jordan's gone. He took the money. I have nothing." Then she looked into the camera with those same crocodile eyes she used when she used to fake apologies after her late-night work calls. "You were right. About everything." I shut it off. This wasn't regret. This was fear. She wasn't sorry she was cornered. That night, I got a call from Dean. "You need to see this." He emailed me a video link. Surveillance footage. From a hotel suite in Soho. Dated 3 weeks ago. Haley. With Jordan. But not just them. Another man. Then another. One after another. Different nights. Different rooms. All on record. I watched in stunned silence. This wasn't a fling. This was routine. She didn't just cheat. She lived in betrayal. Dean's voice came over the speaker. "She's been using burner phones. We traced one back to a dating site, premium membership under your Amex." I swallowed the rising bile in my throat. There's a kind of pain that burns so cold, it doesn't even feel like pain anymore. Just emptiness. Just silence. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there, hands folded, watching the woman I once loved unravel on screen, piece by piece. The next morning, I filed for divorce. No warning. No messages. No explanations. She received the documents while she was at her sister's. She called me 37 times that day. I didn't pick up. She left a voicemail. "You think you're punishing me? I'll ruin you, Nick. You're not the only one who knows how to play this game." I listened once, then deleted it. Let her try. Because now I wasn't holding back. 2 days later, she showed up at my office. No appointment. No warning. Just barged in like she still owned the place, wearing a fake smile and tight black dress like it was armor. My assistant tried to stop her, but Haley pushed past, heels clicking like gunshots across the floor. "Nick," she said, voice syrupy. "We need to talk." I didn't even look up from my laptop. "Get out." She sat anyway, legs crossed, confidence unraveling under the weight of my silence. "You're blowing this out of proportion," she said, leaning forward. "Okay. I made some mistakes, but we can fix it. I'll get the money back." "You're broke," I replied without emotion. "You couldn't buy a coffee right now unless someone else paid." She flinched, then recovered. "You're just being cruel now. You stole from me, Haley. Lied. Slept around. Multiple times. With strangers, with Jordan, with, hell, who even knows how many. And you think I'm being cruel?" She tried to laugh. It came out cracked and hollow. "You were never around, Nick. You made me feel invisible. That's funny. You seem pretty visible in those hotel videos. She froze. Her lips parted slightly. Ah, she hadn't known I had the footage. I stood up slowly, walking around the desk until I stood inches from her. I watched you. Over and over. With every man. Every trick. Every fake moan. You were an actress on a stage you thought no one could see. She turned away, unable to meet my eyes. You weren't supposed to it. I wasn't supposed to find out? That's your defense? She didn't answer. My phone buzzed. Dean again. I have something you'll want to hear, he said. Jordan's, or Kyle's, credit card just got pinged into Loom. He's holed up at a beachside villa under a fake name. Of course he was. Haley was still sitting there, now wiping fake tears from her cheeks, like that would change anything. I hung up the phone and turned to her. You know what the worst part is? I said. She looked up, mascara smudged. What? I really loved you. She blinked, and for a second, maybe, just maybe, something real cracked through that shell. Then it was gone. She stood, adjusting her dress. Fine, if that's how you want it. But don't think I'm going down without a fight. Oh, I'm counting on it, I said. Makes the win so much sweeter. She stormed out. But I wasn't done. I called Dean back. Send someone to Loom. Quietly. I want eyes on him. Already done, he replied. And there's more. Looks like Jordan's company was never registered. The money she gave him? It's gone. Probably funneled into crypto and luxury crap. But here's the kicker, she signed the sale with forged notary stamps. That's jail time. I leaned back in my chair, letting the words sink in. For the first time in days, I smiled. This wasn't just revenge anymore. This was justice. By the next morning, I had surveillance images of Jordan sipping cocktails with 2 women on a rented yacht. Meanwhile, Haley was on Instagram, posting filtered selfies and pretending her life was still perfect. Some people just don't know when they've lost, Dean said. Let her post, I replied. She'll look great in orange. Then came the breaking point. Haley's sister called me. Out of breath, shaken. She's gone, she said. Packed her things and disappeared. No note. Nothing. That same night, Haley sent me a video. In it, she was crying in the mirror of a hotel bathroom. I didn't mean for any of this to happen, she said. I was stupid. But I didn't think you'd go this far. I thought you loved me. I stared at the screen, emotionless. You thought I loved you? I whispered. No, Haley. I loved the person I thought you were. Not the monster who sold our legacy, gave it to a con man, and laughed in my face when I found out. Not the woman who weaponized my kindness and called it weakness. And not the coward who ran the moment the consequences came knocking. I sent the video to Dean. Let's bury her, I said. And this time, I meant it. The extradition request went out the next day. Dean had pulled every string, loopholed every jurisdiction. Fraud, misrepresentation, wire transfer violations, tax evasion. Haley's name was suddenly glowing red in every system that mattered. And Jordan? Kyle? Whatever alias he was using now. He was officially a target. But none of it gave me peace. Not yet. I still woke up every night at 3 a.m., heart pounding, reaching for someone who wasn't there anymore. Someone who, it turns out, never really was. I replayed it all in my head like some sick highlight reel, her smile when she used to kiss me goodbye, her silence when she crept back in at 2 a.m., the way she moaned someone else's name when I wasn't even out of the driveway yet. There were no answers. Just echoes. Until one morning, I got a knock on the door. It wasn't Dean. Wasn't a delivery. It was Jared, my cousin, the only person in my family who still lived nearby, and the last person I expected to see standing on my porch with a face full of fire and a crumpled newspaper in his hand. You've seen this, he said. He shoved it at me. Page 6. Tabloid junk. But there it was. Billionaire's wife found in Colombian rehab center after allegedly funding boyfriend's failed business with stolen fortune. There was a blurred-out photo, but I'd recognize her anywhere. She looked unhinged, skin pale, hair brittle, eyes distant. Colombia, I muttered. Jared nodded. They picked her up after she OD'd in a club. Her passport was flagged. She tried to claim she was trafficked. I said nothing. She's trying to flip it, he continued. Playing the victim now. Saying Jordan forced her to do everything. Typical. The woman who burned everything we built now trying to squeeze sympathy from the world by pretending she was just another pawn. But she wasn't. She was the one who made the moves. She signed the deals. She wrote the damn checks. Later that day, my phone rang again. This time, it was the prosecutor's office. We have enough to move forward, the voice said. She'll be extradited in the next 72 hours. I stood in front of the farmhouse, the real one, while they told me. The wind carried the scent of wet soil and old pine. My grandfather had planted those trees. He used to say that men who plant roots don't fear storms. I never understood that before, but now I did. 3 days later, she arrived. Handcuffed, wearing a hoodie that didn't fit and glasses she didn't need. She looked around the airport hangar like she was still hoping someone would bail her out. No one did. Dean and I stood just outside the doors with 2 marshals between us. She saw me, tried to run to me. Nick, please. I'm sorry, okay? I was scared. The marshals pulled her back. I walked up slowly, calm. I'd imagined this moment 100 different ways, screaming at her, spitting in her face, turning away without a word. But what I did was far worse. I smiled, and I whispered, "You spent $20 million on your boyfriend's fantasy. Now you'll spend the rest of your life watching mine become real." Her eyes widened. I stepped back, watched as they dragged her away. She screamed all the way down the hallway. And just like that, she was gone. But the story wasn't over yet. Jordan, or Kyle, was still out there, still sipping overpriced drinks on someone else's dime. And I was going to find him. Because some betrayals don't deserve forgiveness. They deserve closure. Finding Jordan was easier than I thought. After the arrest made headlines, he disappeared from social media, wiped his LinkedIn, and ghosted everyone connected to the scam. But he made one mistake. He had a soft spot for luxury. And luxury always leaves a trail. Dean tracked a payment through a boutique credit card tied to a yacht charter off the coast of Ibiza. The reservation name was fake, but the passport used for verification matched one of Jordan's old burner IDs. I sent a wire to a local fixer with a reputation for solving problems that don't go through official channels. 48 hours later, I was on a plane. I landed in Ibiza just before sunset. The sky was orange and red, bleeding into the sea like fire. My fixer, a man named Luis, met me at the dock. "He's at Villa Calma," he said in a thick accent. "Big party tonight. Lots of women. No security. Perfect." We parked a rented Jeep outside the villa. Music pounded from the back terrace, glass walls flashing with neon lights. I stepped out, wearing a clean black shirt and no expression. I wasn't here to talk. I wasn't here to threaten. I was here to end it. Inside, Jordan was laughing with 2 women in bikinis, holding a bottle of champagne like it was a trophy. He didn't see me at first. Not until I stepped into the pool of light near the bar. His eyes caught mine mid-sip. And that was it. Everything froze. The bottle slipped from his hand and shattered on the floor. He tried to play it cool, fake grin pulling at his face. "Nick, buddy, what are you doing here, man?" I didn't respond. The music faded in my head. All I could hear was the thump of my pulse and the images playing in my mind, Haley's message, the sale documents, the videos. My name being dragged through the dirt by a boy who wore knockoff luxury like it meant something. He stepped toward me, palms raised. "Look, I didn't know she was gonna sell the house. I thought she owned it. I swear, man, I thought everything was legit." Still, I said nothing. One of the girls whispered something and grabbed her purse. They both slipped out, sensing the shift in the air. Jordan licked his lips, sweating now. You want money? I don't have all of it, but I can get some back. Just give me a few weeks." I took a slow step forward. He backed up. Okay, listen," he said, voice cracking. "She lied to me too. You think I knew she was married at first? She told me you were some abusive control freak. I was just trying to help her escape." I lunged, grabbed him by the shirt and slammed him against the wall. The force rattled a painting off its hook. He whimpered. "Escape," I growled. "You were using her. You drained her. She was stupid enough to give it to you, but you took it knowing damn well what it was. I didn't know she'd go that far. You didn't care." He shook his head frantically. Please, man. I didn't sign anything. I didn't steal it. She gave it to me." I leaned in close. "That's the only reason you're still breathing." He slumped, tears welling in his eyes. "You're not walking away from this," I said. "You're going to sign over everything you bought with my money. Every car, every fake company, every damn crypto wallet. Or I swear to God I'll make sure you rot beside her." He nodded quickly, desperate. Yes, okay. I'll give it all back." Louise stepped into the room, holding a tablet with documents already pulled up. Jordan's face twisted in confusion as I handed it over. "You really had this ready?" "I came prepared," I said. "Unlike you." He signed everything. Every asset, every account, every fake LLC. And when he was done, I stared at the signature, his pathetic scribble, trembling like the coward he was. "Don't ever come near me again," I said, turning to leave. "If I even hear your name in a whisper, I won't be this merciful." He dropped to the floor, shaking. Louise followed me out. "I assume you won't press charges?" he asked quietly. "No," I said. "Let him live with what he lost." I flew home the next morning. The farmhouse was still there. Peaceful. Quiet. I walked out to the back field where the old oak tree still stood, just like when I was a kid. And for the first time in months, I let myself breathe. Everything she tried to destroy, everything he thought he could steal, it was still mine. Not just the land. My name. My peace. My future. I'd survived the betrayal. But more importantly, I came out stronger. A month passed. The storm had settled, but the aftermath still clung to my bones. I was rebuilding, not just financially, but something deeper. Something in my chest that had been cracked open and exposed. The pain wasn't gone. It just changed shape. Quieter now, but never far. The farmhouse became my refuge. No more suits. No boardrooms. Just me, the land, and silence that no longer felt hollow. Until the letter came. It wasn't from a lawyer or the court. It was from Haley. Handwritten. Mailed from the county jail. The envelope was thick. The handwriting, still that same looping, elegant scrawl. Like the lies she used to tell, wrapped in pretty packaging. I stood at the kitchen counter, the letter unopened in my hand for 10 minutes straight. My thumb hovered over the flap, then finally ripped it open. It read, "Nick, I know you won't believe me. You probably shouldn't. But I didn't write this to beg or manipulate. I wrote this because I owe you something I never gave you before. The truth. I nearly threw it out right there. But I kept reading. I loved you once. A long time ago. You were safe. Steady. Too steady. I started to feel invisible. You were building a life for us, but I felt like a ghost inside of it. I didn't know how to talk to you. So I started talking to someone else. Then another. And another. It became easier to lie than to face the reality that I was turning into someone I hated. When I met Jordan, I thought he saw me, but he didn't. He saw a bank account and a woman stupid enough to give him everything. And I was stupid. I betrayed the only person who ever really tried to love me. I sold the wrong house, Nick. But it turns out I was always living in the wrong story. I'm sorry. Not for what it cost you, but for what I cost myself. I won't write again. Haley. I stared at the paper. I expected anger. I expected sarcasm, manipulation, another pathetic twist. But it felt empty. Not sincere. Not fake. Just the final note in a song that should have ended long ago. I folded the letter and slid it back into the envelope. Didn't burn it. Didn't toss it. I buried it under the floorboards in the study. Let it rot there with the rest of the lies. That night, I sat under the stars behind the farmhouse. The breeze moved slow across the fields, brushing over the wheat like a hand over skin. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I smiled. I wasn't broken anymore. I wasn't angry. I was just free. And that's when I saw her again, not Haley. Not any ghost of the past. Claire. The vet who helped with the horses last spring. The one with the quiet laugh and the eyes that never tried to hide. She waved as she walked up the driveway. Casual. Warm. You're still out here, she said. I'm always out here now. She smiled. Good. The world out there sucks anyway. We sat under the stars for hours, talking about nothing. And in that nothing, I found everything I'd been missing. Not passion. Not chaos. Just peace. Because some stories don't end with fire and fury. Some end with silence. And new beginnings. This wasn't a story about revenge anymore. It was a story about survival. And the man I became after the lies. The man I always should have been. Weeks passed, and I didn't hear from Haley again. Not a call, not a letter, not a whisper. She disappeared into the system, exactly where she belonged. And I didn't check up on her, not once. Whatever happened to her from that point forward wasn't my burden to carry anymore. She chose her path. And I chose mine. Jordan's assets were seized. What little was left got funneled back into my accounts through legal channels. But the money? It wasn't the point anymore. It never was. The real theft wasn't the dollars, it was the years, the trust, the belief that I was building something with someone who was only ever looking for a way out. But she didn't get out. I did. And that made all the difference. One morning, I walked the border of the farmland, boots caked in mud, sun rising low and red across the hills. It hit me then, this was mine. Not just the property. The quiet. The strength. The scars. All of it. Every betrayal, every lie, every sleepless night, it carved something into me. And where the wounds had once been open and raw, they were now calloused. Tougher. Smarter. Still me. Just stronger. Claire started coming by more often. No rush, no pressure, no promises. Just two people talking under the stars, sharing coffee at sunrise, feeding the horses together in the chill of morning. She didn't ask about Haley. She didn't have to. I think she saw in my eyes that the chapter was over. Burned. Buried. Done. One night, as we watched a thunderstorm roll over the ridge, she looked at me and said, "You ever think about starting over?" I nodded slowly. "Every day." She smiled. "Then maybe don't do it alone." I didn't respond. Just reached over and took her hand. It was warm. Real. And it didn't tremble like Haley's had. I thought about everything, about how I nearly lost myself trying to save someone who was already gone. How I let love blind me to the poison it had become. And how it took everything crashing down to finally see the truth. If you're reading this, if you're sitting in silence, confused, broken, blindsided by the person who once swore they loved you, listen to me. You'll survive. You won't feel like it at first. You'll question everything. You'll replay every moment, looking for where it all went wrong. You'll blame yourself. And you'll want to burn the world down. But then one morning, you'll wake up. And there'll be a quiet that doesn't hurt. A moment where you don't think about them. A breath that doesn't carry their name. That's where it begins. That's when you rebuild. Not to prove anything. Not for revenge. But for you. Because peace doesn't come from punishing those who wronged you. It comes from remembering who you are. And never letting anyone take that from you again.